Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Something unusual is happening right now, and most people haven't noticed it yet. Across Canada, Europe, and even parts of Asia, consumers are quietly pulling back from the United States. Travel is dropping, exports are taking hits, and even Tesla, once untouchable, is starting to feel pressure overseas. This isn't a sudden collapse, it's a shift in behavior that's building momentum. And just like in the auto world, when demand patterns change, entire industries have to adapt fast. The question is this temporary or the start of something bigger? Let's break it down. A quiet realignment, when global perception starts to shift. What makes this moment stand out isn't just declining numbers, it's alignment across multiple regions. For decades, American brands operated like high-output engines in global markets, delivering strong cultural horsepower tied to innovation and lifestyle appeal. But by 2025 into early 2026, that engine began to face resistance. Political friction, trade disputes, and shifting alliances started influencing consumer sentiment in ways that now translate into measurable behavior. Tourism offers one of the earliest indicators. International overnight visits to the US dropped 5.7% in 2025, even as global travel demand rebounded. That underperformance signals something deeper than cyclical slowdown. In automotive terms, it's like seeing declining torque output despite favorable driving conditions. Something internal has changed. And increasingly, that internal shift is perception turning into action. But perception alone doesn't move economies. It becomes far more visible when people start changing where they spend their money, especially in travel. Travel Reconsidered, when tourism reflects political undercurrents. Travel has become one of the most immediate expressions of this changing sentiment. The US remains a global destination, but recent data shows a clear slowdown in inbound tourism. A 5.7% drop in international visits translates into fewer hotel stays, reduced airline demand, and lower spending across hospitality sectors, industries that depend heavily on high-value international travelers. Australia illustrates this trend well, with travel to the US falling around 6.5% in 2025. It's not a collapse, but it's meaningful given Australia's history as a strong long-haul market. Even more critical is Canada. By February 2026, return trips from Canadians dropped 12.5% year-over-year, marking 14 straight months of decline. That consistency signals more than temporary hesitation, it's behavioral change. In automotive terms, it's like watching sustained fuel efficiency losses across multiple drive cycles. It points to a systemic shift. But travel is only one side of the equation. When sentiment reaches trade and exports, the financial impact becomes far more immediate. Before we dive deeper into that, do us a favor, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep bringing you sharp, no-nonsense insights here on Piston Pundit. Now let's shift gears. Spirits under pressure, when trade tensions hit American exports. If tourism reflects sentiment, alcohol exports reveal the economic consequences. American whiskey, wine, and spirits, once dominant in global markets, are now feeling the impact of both tariffs and consumer pushback. Whiskey exports to the EU fell 35% in 2025, while Japan saw a 28% decline. These aren't minor dips. They represent a sharp loss of momentum for products that had built strong international demand. Canada delivered the most dramatic shift. Provincial decisions to remove US alcohol from shelves turned trade friction into immediate supply disruption. Exports to Canada plunged 85% in Q2 2025. US wine followed the same trajectory, dropping roughly 77%, costing producers hundreds of millions. Think of it like a supply chain misfire in automotive production. Once distribution breaks down, the ripple effects hit everything from output planning to workforce stability. But this isn't just about lost sales. It's also about how key allies are beginning to rethink long-term economic dependence. Canada's strategic shift, from Reliance to Realignment. Canada's response stands out because it goes beyond consumer sentiment. It's structural. For decades, The US-Canada relationship functioned like a tightly integrated drivetrain, with seamless trade and shared economic output. But by 2025, that system began decoupling. Travel numbers tell part of the story, with Canadian trips to the US falling 12.5% year-over-year and extending a 14-month decline. But the bigger shift is diversification. Energy is a prime example. With expanded access to Pacific markets via the Trans Mountain Pipeline, Canadian crude can now reach Asia more efficiently, reducing reliance on US buyers. That's strategic leverage. When supply routes diversify, dependency drops. The alcohol dispute accelerated this shift, showing how quickly trade relationships can recalibrate when political friction enters the equation. And that same shift, from dominance to competition, is playing out just as aggressively in the automotive sector. Tesla's Crossroads, brand power meets market reality. Tesla's recent performance highlights how quickly momentum can shift in a competitive EV landscape. In 2025, Tesla's European sales dropped 27%, even as overall EV demand surged, a clear sign that the issue wasn't market weakness, but competitive pressure. Established automakers and newer entrants are now delivering compelling alternatives, often with localized appeal and pricing advantages. Early 2026 added more volatility. Tesla saw sharp registration declines in markets like France and Norway, though broader market factors played a role. Still, Tesla's drop was steeper, making it stand out. By March, however, there were signs of recovery, as EV demand rebounded across Europe. Canada remains more challenging, with industry estimates pointing to a steep decline in deliveries. The takeaway? Brand identity now carries risk. In today's EV race, product, perception, and positioning all need to fire in sync. And when multiple sectors, from energy to exports to vehicles, start moving in the same direction, it signals something much bigger than isolated setbacks. Final assessment: a turning point for America's global standing. This isn't a sudden collapse, it's a recalibration. Across tourism, exports, and automotive markets, we're seeing how sentiment, policy, and competition are beginning to reshape global behavior. The US remains a dominant economic force, much like a high-performance engine that still delivers power. But even the best engines require tuning when conditions change. Tourism has softened in key markets. Alcohol exports have taken measurable hits. Canada is actively diversifying. And Tesla's experience shows that even leading brands can face turbulence when perception shifts. These aren't isolated issues, they're interconnected signals. The real challenge now is adaptation. Can US industries recalibrate fast enough to regain momentum? Because in global markets, reputation isn't just branding, it directly impacts demand, investment, and long-term competitiveness. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think this global pullback is temporary, or the start of a long-term shift? Is Tesla's challenge more about competition or brand perception? And how should US automakers respond to changing global sentiment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Before you go, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive here on Piston Pundit. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.